Welcome, everybody. My name is Marty Mascari. I am a contractor under the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging and the North Central Texas Aging and Disability Resource Center, or ADRC, both of which are under the umbrella of the North Central Texas Council of Governments in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. We welcome you today. We are blessed to have our partners at the James L. West Center today presenting on caregiver resiliency and stress reduction. And as Holly had mentioned earlier in just our chat, um, me and her both happen to be going through divorces right now. And this stress reduction is for anybody that is experiencing stress of any kind will definitely get something out of this. But we're talking about caregivers today because that's what we got to do in order to be eligible for the CEUs that you want. So if you're joining us today for CEUs, we're providing CEUs for licensed nurses, social workers, and licensed professional counselors, as well as certificates of attendance. These are we thank the James L. West Center. These are complimentary and they're provided by the James L. West Center, and we surely appreciate that. In order to qualify, you must complete the entire live webinar to receive the 1.5 hour CEU credit, and you must complete the Survey Monkey evaluation. The Survey Monkey evaluation form will be sent out in a follow-up email that will go out tomorrow, and it will have the links. It will have the link to the slides again for today, and it'll have some other information. But you look out for that, and you want to concentrate on the Survey Monkey. That is the one you have to complete in order to get CEUs. Now, you'll have until the 19th to complete that. In addition to the Survey Monkey, we also have a Google evaluation survey that we put together to help report back on the goals and objectives we set forth when we applied for the money to put these webinars on. So if you can help us, we would certainly appreciate you also completing the Google survey. That will pop up as you close out of Zoom today. Zoom will just ask you if you'd like to take a short survey. And if you go there, you can complete the Google survey. But please note the Survey Monkey survey is the one you must complete to get CEUs, because that's what triggers those CEUs. Now that we're done with that, I'm going to turn it over to Holly Glover, and Holly's going to talk to us about stress reduction.
Thank you, Marty. And like Marty was saying, we all need some stress reduction and resiliency, regardless of where we are in life, I think, simply because what is today? It's Tuesday. That's a reason to need some stress reduction. But we are going to talk specifically about caregivers, and then we're going to touch on specifics of memory care as well. Those of you who are either professional caregivers or family caregivers for somebody who has dementia. There's my information right there for those of you getting your CEs, and we've got our objectives as well. The next thing I want us to look at, though, is I want us to look at an advertisement for the perfect caregiver, because I know that's what we all want to be. We want to be that perfect caregiver. So let's see. What do we need to be? Must have unlimited stamina, be energetic, alert, and attentive, friendly and caring, totally understanding and forever patient, must be willing to always subordinate your own needs to those of the patient, and have few, if any, other commitments. You must know how to handle any situation, have a background degree in psychology or human relations as preferred. Plus, you need some basic nursing skills, basic knowledge of medications and their interactions, as well as all the side effects. Be prepared to work for no pay and expect little, if any, appreciation from the patient. Now, that is our plight as a caregiver, isn't it? Or that's our story as a caregiver. You're not in it alone. There are other people who are going through what you're going through. I promise you they are. And if you will find yourself a support group online or in person, a really good support group where you can say what you need to say and it is a safe place, you'll find other people that are going through exactly the kind of feelings and emotions that you're having as a caregiver. So I'm so glad that you're here today. Because what I have found as a grief therapist and as a licensed counselor is this is what most of us want to do. Look what he's standing here looking at. One of life's brick walls, whatever that might be. Let's call it a caregiving brick wall. And most of the time we want to go either over, under, or around that brick wall. But what we found in reality is we've got to go through it. Don't we? We want to go over, under, or around it, but we've got to go through it. And the reality of caregiving, and let me just throw in the reality of caregiving for someone who has dementia. Because we're not going to do this for days or weeks or months. We're going to do it for years. And what we're going through is grief. It's grief. Grief is loss. And it is loss of the relationship the way that we thought it would be. It's loss of the relationship the way it is today. Ambiguous loss. We're grieving the loss of somebody who's still alive. Anticipatory grief. We're grieving the loss of an unknown future. I think they need to add another one on there. We've got the over, under, around. Well, I guess the under could count for I just want to stick my head in the sand. Just make it go away. But that's not an option. But what can happen, there we go, is we can start to develop something called compassion fatigue or burnout. So let's look at what are these two things. Lots of times they're used interchangeably, but they're not. There's a difference. As a caregiver, we can start having feelings that we've never had before. And some of those feelings can actually scare us, especially if it's something we've never felt before, and especially if it's related to a person that we care very, very much about. And some of the feelings, emotions, thoughts that we're having scare us. In counseling, we have a term that we call, if you can name it, you can tame it. If you can say the name of what you're feeling, you can get on top of that feeling. So what if we just called it what it is? It's grief. This is grief. This wasn't the plan. We were going to retire and travel together. We had plans that did not involve dementia. We had plans that did not involve caregiving. And it scares us. If you're a professional caregiver, we can find ourselves giving so much to other people that we don't take care of ourselves. And these are people that aren't related to us. So we're going to touch on both the professional caregiver and the family caregiver in this program. They really come together. Let's look at compassion fatigue. Try to start seeing yourself in some of this. I'm not able to look you in the face. We're not in person. I just did this program in November at a big conference in Oklahoma, and I talked about this same thing, and I was able to look people in the face. In fact, some of the little quizzes we're going to do today, please be honest on these. Be very, very honest. You're going to know what the answer should be, but don't should on yourself. Make sure that you tell the truth on these so that you can really look at it and own whatever it is that's going on. So a combination of physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion that's associated with internalizing and being impacted by the emotions and experiences of those suffering that we provide care for. This compassion fatigue is usually short term. It can come and go, where our compassion fatigue can kind of ebb and flow and wane. Throughout the course of a disease like dementia, we're on the journey with our loved one. And when they get to a plateau, we'll get to a plateau. But whenever they start to sink, they start to progress, we change also. And there you can have kind of that compassion fatigue flare. That's why I put that picture that I did there on the top. Now let's look at burnout. A state of emotional and physical exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed and you are unable to meet the demands. It is long-term, and in professionals, many times it results in changing jobs or having to take off work for sometimes a significant amount of time. Burnout is when we are at risk of abusing ourselves or abusing others. We are going to talk a lot more about that. So there's the difference. Compassion fatigue, short term, tends to come and go. Burnout tends to be a little more long term and can have some serious consequences. So who develops it? Anyone can. Of course, anyone can. Regardless of what it is that you do, anyone can. But where we tend to see it is in professionals and family caregivers, especially if they're taking care of someone who is terminal. And many of you have been on our programs before. You recently did our Dementia 101, where we found out all of the dementias. And again, there's over 100 different types of dementia. All of the dementias are terminal. They don't usually tell us that at the doctor's office. They don't usually mention the word progressive, terminal, hospice. Their brain is failing. And we're taking care of them, again, not over a series of days, weeks, or months, but years. And it is exhausting. We're taking care of someone who's getting progressively worse, and it can put us on a decline. So I mentioned earlier, we throw dementia into caregiving. And dementia affects the entire family. You know, in the world of memory care, we say all the time that the caregivers, those care partners, are known as the hidden patient. And we're going to look at statistics of caregivers and what starts to happen to caregivers. Because dementia is not a typical disease model. It can last anywhere from 3 to 20 years. Now, we can look at statistics all day long and see that, okay, if they get diagnosed before the age of 65, life expectancy is about 5 years. Well, what does that mean? Somebody's living around 10 or longer, and somebody's living maybe 2 to 3. Life expectancy over the age of 65 is about 10 years, but there's lots to put in there. We've got to look at a person's age when they're diagnosed. What if they're diagnosed over life expectancy? And life expectancy right now in the United States, we continue to fall, contrary to some things you might hear or see. Whenever you look up life expectancy right now in the United States, as of January, 77 was the average age, and it was 80 for women and 75 for men. Life expectancy in the United States. That's without any comorbidities. Well, let's throw in dementia or high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, cancer, kidney disease, anything else that somebody might have. So it's very, very hard to tell. How many people live with dementia up to 20 years? Not very many. And how many people die after only 3? Not very many. But families want me to be able to tell them how long this is going to last, and we can't. Such an individualized disease. I mentioned these two terms earlier. What's going on with that care partner? They're going through grief and loss, but it's not conventional grief and loss, because conventional grief and loss is at death. Conventional grief is at death. That's when somebody has died. But ambiguous grief, ambiguous loss, we are mourning the loss of someone who's alive. And then that anticipatory grief, we are mourning the future. And it takes some work. And back to that second slide, we have to go through it, not over, under, or around it. Let's look at the signs and symptoms of compassion fatigue. And again, I want you to be very honest with yourself. Marty has put the slides in the chat. You will get a copy of them. If you signed up early, you got a copy of them. But I would encourage you on some of these that we're going to look at, that you run it off, get yourself a highlighter. If we were in person, this is what I'd have you do. Get a highlighter and go through and highlight each of these that you have, the signs and symptoms that you have. If you're a professional on today getting CEs and you work with families who have loved ones with dementia, keep this. You're going to want to use it when you're talking to those families. We've got to take care of the families as well. Mind, body, spirit, and emotions. I will use this slide with family members sometime, and I'll ask them to do what I just asked you to do, to highlight. And how many times do I hear, well, I've been having that for some time. I wasn't putting together joint and muscle pains with caregiving. I wasn't putting together my sleep disturbances or my hypervigilance, my lack of energy. I thought it was just, and you start to realize all of this comes back to caregiving, because for many of us as caregivers, are you ever really resting? Or are you sleeping with one eye and one ear open? So you're never really turning your brain completely off. You're hyper vigilant. You're always listening. You're always on alert, even when you're laying down. Getting angry, being angry. Could you possibly be angry at the person who has dementia for developing dementia? And that's the kind of stuff we talk about in support groups. You know, they didn't do anything to make it happen, but this wasn't the plan. And if you wouldn't have developed it, it's normal. I get asked every week, multiple times a week, is this that I'm feeling normal? Well, are you feeling it? Yes, then it's normal to you. Are you going through something you've never been through before? Yes, then it's normal to have feelings that aren't normal to you. That makes sense? Maybe you took care of a parent, but now you're taking care of a spouse. It's different. Maybe you took care of a grandparent, but now you're taking care of a parent. Maybe you've never taken care of anybody before, and all of a sudden, I'm taking care of an adult, and I'm not trained for this, and I'm having feelings I've never had before because I'm in a situation I've never been in before. Had lots of this during the pandemic because we were all having feelings, thoughts, and emotions that we'd never had before, but we'd never been through anything like that before. So let's look at the next one. And these are just some yes and no questions. So I want you to think back. Let's just do since the first of the year, because here we are just about the middle of February, so maybe 6 weeks in. Are there times that you felt unappreciated? You feel like your self-worth is determined by how others perceive you? Do you get anxious around conflict? Have you had experiences and feelings of hopelessness? Do you have problems separating your personal life from your caregiving? Have you started calling yourself a caregiver and that has become your identity? I was talking to a family about this morning. I feel like I'm his wife. I'm becoming his caregiver. The connection isn't there like it used to be because caregiving is becoming my identity. Are you having problems sleeping? Do you feel used up at the end of the day? And is your stress affecting your emotional or your physical health? And we're even going to deep dive a little more into that emotional and physical health. In a study that was done using these questions, about 50% of all professional healthcare workers reported feeling compassion fatigue. And professional healthcare workers, that year of 2020, that year that we are all trying to forget, the year of 2020, 31% of all suicides were healthcare workers. You want to talk about compassion fatigue and burnout? We weren't talking about it. And professionals that are on, we're the worst about asking for help. We don't ask for help because I've got all these credentials. I'm the one that helps other people. I don't need any help. So let's see what I might do to help myself. Let's look at some more statistics of what caregivers do. And professional caregivers, we're some of the worst. Look what we do. Turning to alcohol. This is from a study done at UCLA. Overusing prescription medications. You know what field of professionals has the highest rate of alcohol-induced dementia? Healthcare workers. 16% of people will start to smoke again after sometimes having been off of nicotine for many years. And here's the big one. 72% of professional and family caregivers are overweight. And let's think about why that is. Well, it's easy. It's easy. I can drive through. It makes me feel better right now. I don't feel better tomorrow. I sure don't feel better when I step on the scale, but those French fries are so good right now. It's temporary. Or if I'm a family caregiver and I know from my education about dementia that people with dementia tend to crave sweets, well, I'm not going to give them ice cream without me getting some too, because now I feel better too. And before we know it, so let's look at stress. You've heard of fight, flight, freeze. There's also a fourth one called fawn, F-A-W-N, fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. What's happening? Cortisol is what's happening. You may have heard about cortisol. Cortisol is that stress hormone. It increases and it changes how we respond. I also want to use the word react mentally, emotionally, and physically to any kind of a change, demand, or event. There's enough talk about stress and resiliency right now that we've heard there's good stress and there's bad stress. Sometimes we need a little bit of stress. If I've got a deadline out there, I've got to get a presentation put together, I've got to get a program put together by Friday at 5, I kind of need that hanging over my head so I don't keep putting it off and procrastinate. So that could be a good stress. But then there's this that we've been talking about. But I'm taking care of somebody that I love and I'm losing them a little bit at a time and I'm watching it. Or I'm a professional caregiver and I'm taking care of people that are terminal. And no matter what I do, they die. And that's hard. That's hard to work in the field with residents, patients, clients, that you are making their life better. You are finding joy in dementia. And then they're gone. But I've still got these other folks to take care of. But I just lost somebody that I've been taking care of for a long time. And I got to carry that while still having the smile on and taking, it's heavy. It's heavy. A lot of people don't think about that with our healthcare workers that are working with terminal patients. The easiest emotion for most people to have is anger. When you study emotions, when you study feelings, a lot of people go to anger first. Because if I get really loud and I get broad and I start to stand up tall, and maybe I start to talk really ugly and even point, now I feel like I'm in control, whether I am or not. Second thing we see people do is just leave. Fight, flight. I'm going to flee from this perceived attack, this perceived harm, this perceived threat. And keep in mind, perception is a key word here, because especially again with dementia, what I perceive as a catastrophic event and what someone else perceives as a catastrophic event could be two completely different things. I've been working with families for over a decade, and I have had families, especially earlier in the disease, be bent out of shape, upset, losing sleep because their loved one will not take their shoes off when they go to bed, and they are sleeping with their shoes on. And as they go on the journey of dementia, they start to figure out at least they're in the bed. Who cares if they've got their shoes on? That's the least of things I'm going to worry about. But it can, in some people, be very upsetting. Or if your loved one is placed and they live in a facility, a community, and you come in and they don't have their clothes on, they've got someone else's clothes on. That's somebody else's clothes and it doesn't fit right and it's got a stain on it. And all of a sudden I am mad. Are we really mad about the sweater? Are we mad because maybe that's something I have some control over in a situation where I don't have any control? Another statistic is that about 75 to 90% of all doctor's office visits are for stress-related ailments. 75 to 90% of all doctor's office visits are stress-related. Headaches, muscle tension, high blood pressure, our body reacting or responding to stress, irritable bowel syndrome. Because every time we dump that cortisol, when our body reacts, our digestive system shuts down. Because if I'm going to fight or I'm going to run, I'm going to flee, that digestive system shuts down. I don't have time to be doing that right now. So we've got to think about, I want you to think about the word demand. Demand. Demand comes from inside of us. What are you demanding of yourself? Especially family caregivers. I have to, I must. Who's putting that on you? Think back through. We change as caregivers as our loved one changes. We cannot set that schedule when they're at the earliest stages of dementia and think we're going to stay on that same schedule until the end, because we're not. It's just like moving into a facility and thinking, I'm going to put my loved one right here in this room and they're going to stay right there just like this, never have a fall, never become incontinent. Everything's going to be fine now because I've placed them. Nope, that disease is going to march on. But you've placed them with a group of experts, hopefully, that are going to walk you through what it's going to look like. When we have unrelieved stress, it starts to change us. It's called chronic stress. So I want you to take a look at what happens when we are in a stressed state. Our blood pressure goes up. Our cortisol levels go up because we dump cortisol. Our heart rate goes up. Our breathing becomes rapid and shallow, and we take chest breaths instead of belly breaths, which is what we're supposed to be doing. We're going to practice those later. Our digestive system stops working. Our muscle tension goes up, and our immune system goes down whenever we go into a stressed state. And that's not a normal state. But for some people who are caregivers and they stay in that stress state, here's what your body's doing all the time. It also increases our blood sugar because I've got to have that energy now to do something, whether it's the fight, the flight, the freeze, or the fawn. Our adrenaline goes up. So if we're living in this state, what is happening to us? This is another really good slide to take your highlighter and see, where are you seeing yourself here? And some of these overlap with the ones we looked at before. Are you waking up in the night? Boy, I'm guilty of this often. And your shoulders are way up here. You're sleeping, but your shoulders are way up here because you're not relaxed, even in your sleep. And I'm wondering, why are my shoulders and my neck hurting so bad all the time? Because even at night, I'm up here. Think about it tonight. When you wake up and you got to go to the bathroom in the night, where are your shoulders when you first wake up? Intentionally bring those shoulders down. If you're sitting at the desk, if you're watching TV, but you're finding yourself sitting or closing off, there's that increased anger. And here comes the other big G word, guilt, 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 guilt. Can eat up a caregiver. So I've got 3 G words. Caregivers come in with all this guilt. And I'm going to ask you to replace that guilt with grief and acknowledge this is grief. And then I'm going to ask you to take that grief and lay over it some grace. Take the guilt, turn it to grief, take the grief and cover it in grace. You didn't know what you didn't know. Stop beating yourself up. Do better moving forward. And when you slip, grace. There can be a lot of resentment when you are a caregiver, especially if you're the only one doing some caregiving and the kids aren't helping or the brothers and sisters aren't helping. Nobody's helping. You can find yourself thinking you've caught dementia. You can't catch it because it's not. I get asked that an awful lot. Can I catch dementia? You cannot catch it. But when you're around it enough, you'll start to think that you've caught it. The worry, the anxiety, the what ifs. You can start having forgetfulness yourself. Ruminating. As a caregiver, you may start to withdraw. Self-medicating. Ignoring your own personal hygiene. So let's think about, what is your stress profile? Everybody has one. It's another really good exercise. How do you define stress? And take the time to do this. How do I define stress? Again, if we were together, I'd be asking you that, maybe handing you out some little sticky notes, and let's write down. Everybody write down. I want you to think about right now. How do you define stress? You can even put it in the chat. How do you define stress? What causes you stress, and what are your warning signs? Because our warning signs are probably very different. Some people might develop a headache. Some people might feel that body tension. Some people define stress as a ball in their stomach. And then what are your triggers? When you're stressed, what do your thoughts typically look like? And again, if we were in person, we would be bouncing these off of each other. So here's an example. This is too hard. Nothing will ever change, and I am not good enough. Okay. Now, again, ask yourself, when I am stressed, this is what I notice in my body. What do you notice physically? Headache, stomach pain, fatigue. I've got one for you. TMJ. You grind your teeth? I've got a mouth guard right here on my desk I've been having to wear because I've been doing that so often. Stress. And then here's the next question. When I'm stressed, this is how I tend to behave or react. I withdraw, I disconnect, I lash out and become angry. I have no joy. What does yours look like? So ask yourself those questions. What do your thoughts look like? What's going on physically in your body? And then what's going on with your behaviors? Keep in mind, no matter how hard I try, I cannot give everyone around me what I do not have myself. So we've got to start thinking about, what do you look forward to every day? And if you can't think of anything, we got to come up with some stuff. What do you look forward to every day? And we're going to start moving toward that. So what do I do to get on top of this? Not everybody likes to journal. I know that. But for those of you that do, or for those of you that are willing to try, and we will talk more about a gratitude journal, but there's other things to write down. What's something that you look forward to? Do you take a nap every day? That's a great thing to look forward to. Do you read a daily devotional? Got one sitting on my desk here, and I've got one sitting by my bed at home, and I've got one on my phone. Do you take a daily walk? I try to walk around the block here at lunch every day. There's ways you can plug things in. Do you enjoy reading? And hopefully you're not always reading about work or dementia. Do you enjoy your morning coffee? Right now, be thinking about, what are some things that you enjoy? Do they replenish you? If they don't, you need to start thinking of some things. What would replenish you? Do you have someone that you can talk to that doesn't necessarily try to fix it? They just listen. Do you allow yourself to get lost in a book or a movie or an article? When was the last time that you danced? When was the last time you took a really long, hot shower or bath? Or that you cooked a meal that didn't go in the microwave? So what's resilience? Everybody, this is another one. If we were together, I'd ask you, define resilience for me. But this is what I hear over and over when I do this presentation. Toughness, that comes up a lot. You must be tough to be resilient. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. The ability to adjust easily to adversity or change. There's the definition of a dementia caregiver right there. We've got to adjust. Maybe not easily, but boy, we sure learn to do it quickly. And when you look up resilience, the ability to return to its original shape and size after being compressed. I think of those Rubbermaid containers, and then they'll pop back. all of us throughout our lives, because I'm assuming everybody on here is an adult right now, we have had disruptions. We have had expectations in our lives where that did not turn out like I thought it was going to. Whether it was a disease diagnosis, a divorce, a loss of any kind, getting fired from a job, having to move for some reason or another, a natural disaster, losing a house in a fire, losing things in a tornado, a hurricane. That was not expected. And it takes resilience to get through each of those. What we thought was going to happen in our life and what has actually happened in our life is two different things. Let's think back to that. Oh, let's think when we were 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. What did we think? Where were we going to be at 50, at 60, at 70? I'm guessing there's very few of us that can say, wow, everything turned out exactly like I thought it would. And if you are one of those few people, good for you. I lived happily ever after. So we've had resilience. And if you go back and you think through your life and you look at other times when you've had to tap into your resilience, taking care of someone with dementia requires a skill set, and it's a skill set the majority of us never wanted. I taught school for 20 years, and I don't know that I ever met a child who said, I want to grow up and take care of people with dementia. There were plenty of kids who wanted to be doctors and nurses and work in healthcare, but I want to take care of people that have dementia. I never heard it. I want to grow up and hope that one of my family members gets dementia so I can take care of them. Nope, sure never heard that. And if you'd have known what was coming, would you have thought that you could have done it? If you even think back to last year at this very time, and you think of where your loved one was a year ago, would you have thought you'd have been able to do what you're doing today? Because you've got personal resilience, adapting well in the face of adversity, in the face of trauma and threats and stress, bouncing back from difficulties with family and relationships and health, and work and home and finances. It's what we do. But we can start to run out of energy. And when we start to run out of energy, we can become a statistic. And that's why we do this program, is we don't want you to become a statistic. And these aren't just numbers that we make up, it's numbers that we see. And those of you that are a spouse, taking care of another spouse, the statistic is that about 68% of the time, the person that doesn't have dementia is going to die first. And then just staggering, 63% of adult children caring for a parent for more than 4 years will die before their parent. Because how many of us that are 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s are caring for a parent? Maybe you're married, maybe you've still got kids at home, or you've got that boomerang kid that came back home and maybe they brought a kid with them this time and you got grandkids, or you're raising your grandkids and you're pulled in two completely different directions. So at about halfway through, we're going to start switching over. So what do I do about it? So we've got to bring in Charlie Brown because he makes everything better. Look what Charlie Brown says here. This is my depressed stance. When you're depressed, it makes a lot of difference how you stand. The worst thing you can do is straighten up and hold your head high, because then you'll start to feel better. If you're going to get any joy out of being depressed, you got to stand like this. I just love Charlie Brown. Bless his heart. Tell I'm in Texas. All right, so let's start looking at what does resilience then look like? And we're going to look at 4 pillars: mental resilience, physical resilience, social resilience, and spiritual resilience. When I first put this program together, probably 5 or 6 years ago, and we update it all the time, and I started asking people to tell me, what does resilience look like in you? That's where I built this slide, because these were answers that I get often. Being outside, that's one of the number one, just being out in nature, which is hard to do here this time of year. It's kind of a gloomy, gloomy day. But even today, during the breaks in rain, I went and walked around the garden here at the West Center because I just got outside. There's something about being outside. Another thing comes up often. And if you find yourself saying, yeah, I used to do that, or I wish I could do that, let's find a way to plug it in. You found a way to use 90 minutes to do this program. Let's find a way to plug it in. The coffee, the soda, the maybe I'm just going to sit down here for a minute and I'm going to enjoy my coffee and talk to a friend, play a crossword on my phone, do a little bit of self-care. The next one is music. He's got on music. And again, these 6 are representing the ones that I personally have had people tell me about the most when I've been out at programs, things that people just like you do for themselves. We'll deep dive more into music and your own music set, as well as your loved one's music set. Being together with family, and watching a movie together, having a movie night, watching something funny. That's huge. Because you know what happens when we laugh? Even when we just smile, that cortisol stops. We're not dumping cortisol anymore. But what if we had some dopamine because we smiled, we chuckled? Reading, and reading for pleasure, a novel, a magazine, something that doesn't have anything to do with your current situation. And exercise, yoga, Pilates, chair yoga, stretching, something where you are moving your body. Now, I found some statistics, and these are for professional caregivers. 93% of professional caregivers have reported being stressed out and stretched too thin. That's the quote from the report. 86% report anxiety, 77% report frustration, 76% report exhaustion, 75% report being overwhelmed, and 82% report emotional exhaustion. This is professionals. More statistics on professionals: 70% reporting physical exhaustion, 68% reporting work-related dread. I don't want to go to work. 57% reporting changes in appetite. 56% report medical problems such as high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, and injuries due to caregiving. You notice all of these are over 50%? That's some high numbers. 55% question their career path. This is professional caregivers, healthcare workers. And 52% have report compassion fatigue. Some things that we can start to do. We've got limits. Yes, we do. We all have limits. Finding that support team or that support group, the people who will stand with you, the ones who are there beside you. Making sure that you take care of your health. I know all of these are easier said than done, but are you doing it? Or are you telling other people to do it? I'll be the first to tell you, guilty. I can tell everybody else how to do it, but am I doing it? And sometimes you need another healthcare professional to say, listen, it matters. It really does. Whether you feel like you need a break or not, when was the last time you scheduled some personal time? Not just scheduled it, actually took it. And on that personal time, you didn't work. Guard your personal time. And I've got on here, it's non-negotiable because it will catch up to you. Now, for everybody, family and professional caregivers, do you have family or friends saying to you that they're seeing a change in your behavior or your demeanor? And you might have got mad because they brought it up and they don't have any idea what you're going through. They don't have it. There's a reason they brought it up. I've got it in bold print there. The first step in resolving stress is to recognize you're suffering from it. Be open to what other people are saying to you. No one person can do everything. And we say in memory care, I can do anything, but I can't do everything. I need some help. In one of our programs that we teach, we've got a picture of the Justice League. And we say even superheroes need a team. Even superheroes have their team. The first thing, very first thing, when we're talking about any way to take care of ourselves is breathing, because we can do it anywhere and we can do it anytime. I said earlier, we tend to do what's called chest breathing when we need to be doing belly breathing. It is something that we can do in the car, sitting at our desk, in an elevator, laying in the bed, because we're breathing anyway. I started saying several years ago, sometimes the difference between a reaction and a response is a single deep breath. The difference between a reaction and a response is a single deep breath. Push some oxygenated blood up to your brain and see if you don't make a better decision. Or you don't say what you're thinking of saying. Or you don't do what you're thinking of doing. Caregivers tell us all the time, this is the best exercise that they ever learn. I walk in and my loved one has made a huge mess in the bathroom. I'm going to take a few steps backwards out of the room while I'm taking some deep breaths. I'm reminding myself that they have got a disease where their brain is failing. And I'm taking deep breaths, not shallow breaths. They're doing the best they can with what remains. And they're not giving me a hard time. They're having a hard time. And now I'm going to put some music on. And I'm going to get in here and see if I can get this cleaned up in 3 songs. 3 songs. Because isn't it better to clean up this bathroom while I'm dancing and singing to Elvis than if I'm in here cursing and yelling and screaming and being mad? When you go to bed at night, rather than having that brain turn on and starting to ruminate, what if you concentrate on these 4x4 breathing? Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. Try it. You make a difference. Before I answer the phone, sometimes I'll do that, especially if I see who I'm getting ready to be talking to. Let me take a deep breath. They can help with fatigue. They can help while you're out and you're taking that little short walk. Do some deep breathing. Now, don't just read this top of this slide and go, oh, Holly told me to go out and eat my stress away. Yes, I did, but it's not what you're, I'm not talking about Cheetos. Eat your stress away in a healthy way so that we bring down the inflammation in the body. And one of the best ways we can do that is with a diet called the MIND diet. It's a combination of the Mediterranean and the DASH diet. It's pretty easy to follow because there's kind of 10 do's and 5 don'ts. And even on the don'ts, it's not a don't ever, ever, it's a limit. Limit. Now, I know those of you in Texas, you might be looking at this and going, wait a minute, it says to limit red meat and cheese. That's half of my diet right there. It doesn't say not to do it, it says to limit it. And look at those things up there that we can have. There's some good stuff there. Eat our way out of stress. What if we did that? And again, that's all there is to the mind diet. And it was developed by neurologists. It's a really good, we teach this when we're talking about brain health, and we definitely want to take care of ourselves and our brains whenever we are a caregiver, whether we are a professional or whether we are a family caregiver. I've already mentioned moving. Now, I know as caregivers, I'm not telling you to go out and jog around the block. I'm telling you to do some type of movement. I said earlier, I've got tennis shoes right here under my desk. And any day that I can, I will try to either walk around the block or walk through our garden, some type of movement. You can get in an hour in 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, or you can get in 30 minutes, even if you take it 5 minutes at a time. I used to tell family caregivers when I was going in homes, I worked for the Alzheimer's Association, do you walk to your mailbox? And they'd say yes. And I would ask them, could you go twice? Could you go 3 times? Could you walk down your driveway and back while breathing? Making sure your shoulders are down here. It makes a difference. It's something little, it's something small, and it makes a difference. I mentioned music earlier. We all have a music set. And our music set, when you study music therapy, is the music that you listen to between the ages of 10 and 25. 10 and 25. So young adult and teenagers. Download that music. Make yourself a playlist. Put it on when you wake up in the morning. Have it on in the car. I actually created a playlist for going to work and a playlist for leaving work. And I have a separate playlist for when I have sat with somebody who's passed away because of what I need to do to take care of myself over the many years of doing this. It's my go-to, is music. Turn that music on while you're out taking that walk. Even if it's 2 songs, makes a difference. What if we had that music on while we were having that cup of coffee? Makes a difference. And I know you may be, oh, yeah, I know. But are you doing it? Are you doing it? Another one, using art. And again, you might hear art and go, nope, I don't do art. Well, do you color? I love to color. Something, some type of a hobby. I know the diamond painting is very popular right now. Oh, I have to put on readers when I'm doing it because those little dots are teeny, teeny, tiny, but it's something different. And when we're teaching about brain health, we say we want to do things novelty, something that's new, something that's challenging, and it's a form of self-care. Did you have a hobby that you gave up because you've been caregiving? What if you got that back out again? Find the crochet stuff. Get lost in it. It can actually increase your self-esteem if you do something, you produce something. And who cares if it's something out of a coloring book? There's no rules. Oh, look what I finished. Now, this is an exercise in mindfulness, and it's called sober. It's a technique that was initially developed as an informal mindfulness practice within addiction centers, but I want to teach you how it works. Mindfulness is a good thing to use whenever you feel yourself becoming really anxious. And anxiety tends to be when we're worrying about the future. Depression tends to be when we're worrying about the past. So depression is when we're having a lot of thoughts that start with woulda, coulda, shoulda. If only I would have, I could have, I should have. Depression, getting hung up on the past. And then there's anxiety. What if, what if, what if, what if? That's the future. So when we start feeling those what ifs sink in, we need to become mindful. And here's what the SOBER stands for. And yes, you're getting copies of these. Marty has put it in the chat and you'll get it in the follow-up email. So the S is for stop. Stop being on autopilot, because most of us spend a lot of our day on autopilot. So we're going to want to stop what we're doing. Step out of autopilot and become present right now. If you're sitting, if you're standing, if you're walking, you just stop and think about where you are right now. Now, you may have heard of the grounding exercise. It's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a breath. Okay, what are 5 things I can see? This is what this is doing, is bringing me back to reality, and it's getting me out of the future. It's getting me out of my head. Okay, I can see that painting on the wall. I can see my computer. I can see 5 things I can see. I'm going to take another breath. What are 4 things I can touch or I can feel? If I'm outside, I might feel the wind, but right here, I can feel my chair and this cushion. Okay, now I'm not thinking about the what ifs right now because I'm grounding myself, a grounding exercise. 3, now I'm going to 3. What are 3 things I can hear? I'm going to be really quiet. I'm going to take that deep breath. And I can hear my sound machine. And I can hear someone opening a door. Okay, I'm going to go to 2. What are there 2 things I can smell right now? You see what I'm doing? This is mindfulness. I'm getting in my senses right now. And is there something I can taste? Number 1, what can I taste? So it's 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. That's part of that O, observing what's going on in your body and your thoughts. The B is for your breathing. Taking those, try to do the 4 by 4. Make sure your belly's going up and down and not your chest. E, expanding to your whole body and your surroundings. That's part of that observing that we just did, the grounding technique. And the R is to respond. Mindful, be aware, and not be on autopilot. Caregivers, we go around on autopilot. This is where we also teach about finding the joy in dementia. What if? What if? What if? Okay, I had to get up and change the sheets, and I'm up earlier than I'm ever up. I think I'm going to go sit out on the porch with my coffee, and I got to watch the sunrise. When was the last time I got to watch the sunrise? It's also reframing. Instead of, I had to get up and change the sheets, I was able to see a sunrise this morning. Can't tell you the last time that I saw a sunrise. It's the difference in, for some of us, do you get up and say, good morning, God? Or do you say, oh, good God, it's morning? Same thing. Thoughts and perceptions to reduce stress. Be careful how you're talking to yourself. This is called distorted thinking. Distorted thinking. And we can be our own worst enemy. I can't do anything right. I can't believe I did that again. I know better than to say that. This is too hard. There's no way this is going to work. All of those are called personal barriers, and we're doing it to ourselves. Nobody else is talking to us that way. We are, because we will talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to another person. Thinking negatively makes you fear the future. It'll make you put yourself down. You will criticize yourself for mistakes. It'll make you doubt your own abilities. It is not good for you because we will start to base our own behavior on our thoughts and our beliefs and our attitudes. So I want us to look at this metaphor. I want to think about this a minute. If you get struck by an arrow, do you then shoot another arrow into yourself? Okay, let's think about it. So the first arrow, we get struck by an arrow. We had nothing to do with it. It just happened. We're struck by an arrow. That represents pain and negative events and life. It can be something minor, or it can be something major like a diagnosis. But it's inevitable. We are all going to have painful events in our life and we can't escape them. That's the first arrow. We had no control over it. But look what this other part says. Do I then shoot another arrow into myself? So the second arrow is representing suffering. It's how we react or respond to the pain from the first arrow. And we can create more suffering by condemning ourselves, by complaining, by pointing the finger, by overanalyzing. We can make the pain even worse. The first arrow is inevitable. It's going to happen. But the second arrow is optional. Have you ever seen, sometimes it's even on a comedy skit, where somebody goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, when I do this with my arm, it hurts." And the doctor says, "Well, stop doing that." We do it to ourselves sometimes. When well, then stop doing it. We've got control over that. Look at this diagram here. Let's start with your thoughts. What you tell yourself influences your emotions and your beliefs. All right, let's go to the emotions and beliefs. What you feel and believe influence your actions and your decisions. Let's look at our actions and decisions and our behaviors. How you act influences your thoughts and your beliefs, and it goes around. So what if I put some positive mantras up on my computer or in my office or on my refrigerator, or I wrote them on my bathroom mirror with a dry erase marker? What if I downloaded some music that makes me feel good? What if I stopped eating crap? And what if I gave myself some credit for the things that I did well today? Because it wasn't all bad. Spiritual resilience, finding meaning, helping other people, shifting that reference from why me, but maybe why not me? Watching your language, making sure you don't exaggerate. I'll share this from being a teacher. I could have, and I taught middle school and high school. So I could be going along and I'll see 160 kids a day. And the day's gone fine until 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, I get somebody in there who's just acting a fool, and they're bad, bad, bad from 3 to 3:30, let's say. And then I go home and say, my entire day was terrible, it was horrible, it was a disaster. Well, was the entire day a disaster? Was the entire day devastating? No, I'm exaggerating. It was really good until 3. And then I had 30 minutes that weren't great. And then it actually was okay again. But if I retell the story, whether I'm saying it out loud or in my head, it was horrible, it was terrible, and I'm using these huge words and I'm exaggerating it, it becomes my truth. An activity that you can do to journal. And if you don't journal, just think through some of these. Why are you? And yes, that is a sentence. Why are you? Why are you? Why are you here? What's your purpose? Why do you get up in the morning? What keeps you up at night? When are you most alive? What can you do to make a difference in someone's life today? So these are just some journal prompts. And yes, you do have copies of these. Gratitude activities. Try to write down, and again, if you don't journal, think through 3 to 5 things each day that you're grateful for. There are so many studies on gratitude. There's something to it. It is time tested. It is proven. What if you even told other people what you appreciate about them? Don't we all need to hear that? Those little notes, little cards, a text, an email. I'm so thankful for you, whatever. Thank you for taking the time to. And some days our gratitude activity might be, I managed to get up and brush my teeth this morning, and that's good. I got up. We talked earlier about finding something funny. Now, in this day and age, when we've got YouTube right at our fingertips, 2 of the best things you can find, and they're good for you and they're good for a loved one with dementia. Funny animal videos. Funny animal videos. Or another favorite, children laughing, children playing. Funny animals and children laughing. Now, people will say, I don't have time to be sitting around. Yes, you do. I am certain that the majority of you probably take your phone right in the bathroom with you, whether you're admitting it or not. I know that you do it. If that's the only time you've got to watch a 2-minute video, then do it during that time. But look at something funny, find something funny, even go back and think, what are some times in your life where you laughed so hard you thought you were going to wet your pants? Think of those times. We've all got them. Replay them. Do you know you'll stop dumping cortisol? You'll stimulate that amygdala and you'll actually release neurotransmitters that will release dopamine. You can make yourself release dopamine by finding something to laugh at. We can do that. And if we're laughing, we're smiling, our loved ones reading us because their amygdala is intact and they're picking up on our gestures, tone, facial expressions, body language. It's a win-win. Find yourself a mantra. I mentioned this earlier. I've got things posted around my computer, and you want to make sure that you actually read them. Don't let them just become a part of the computer. My favorite is I can do anything for a little while. I can do anything for a little while. And these that are on this slide have come straight from one of my support groups when I asked them to give me their mantras and we created our own, or it was something that they heard somewhere. These are the kind of things that they said. This too shall pass. I'm choosing grace in this moment. And I love this one. A hard moment does not mean a hard rest of your day. I've got this one on my computer right now. God will wreck your plans when he sees your plans are about to wreck you. Eesh. And then there is a highlight reel. A highlight reel. This is something to do at the end of the day also. And this is just in your mind when you lay down, the thoughts come on, go, what? Wait a minute. I'm going to do a highlight reel of the day today. And I'm going to think of 3 things that I did well. 3 things that I did well today. And again, it might be, I managed to get all the dishes at the dishwasher. Check. Win. We had a great time listening to music together. we pulled up a funny video and we watched children laughing. So that as you're going to sleep, you're going over positives and not negatives. Some other things, this is the final one, and then I'm going to open up for questions. I see we've got a lot in the chat. You know to do this, but are you doing it? How much time does it take to make or break a habit? I know some of you know this. 28 days. 28 days to make or break a habit. So you have to commit to either doing something for 28 days or stopping something for 28 days. Could you commit to getting plenty of rest, doing some type of exercise, doing something fun? How about committing to laughing every day for 28 days? Taking a break. Commit. 28 days. That's all it takes to make or break a habit, to take care of yourself. Here's my information. You are welcome to reach out to me at any time. My phone number's on there. My email is on there. If I don't get back with you and you send me an email, it's probably because you got caught in my filter. So give me a call, send me another email, and then I'm going to let Marty hop on and go over the CEs again.
Just so you know, I've put the copy of the slides in several times. You should have gotten them. If not, you'll get them in the follow-up email that will go out after. But for those of you today that are joining us for CEUs, um, the James L. West Center is graciously hosting us for CEUs for this event, and they're providing CEUs for licensed social workers, licensed nurses, and licensed professional counselors in the state of Texas, and also for certificates of attendance for anybody who would like one. But you need to go through the same process, the same requirements. You must have completed the entire live webinar, the 1.5 to receive the 1.5 CEU credits. And you must also complete the Survey Monkey evaluation form. Please remember, with the CEUs, you have to complete the Survey Monkey evaluation form. That evaluation form will come in a follow-up email that will go out from me tomorrow. And so please watch out for that. And you have to complete that Survey Monkey. You have until the 19th of the month to complete it. Give them 4 or 5 weeks after the 19th to get those out to you. It is a pretty tedious task to do all the CEUs, and sometimes there's glitches with it, and so it just gets delayed. So please be patient with them. If you don't get it 4 or 5 weeks after the 19th, feel free to email me or whatever, and we'll look into it. Also, our organization, which is the Area Agency on Aging, is also has a Google survey that we asked you to complete. And this is to help us to report back on the goals and objectives we set forth when we applied for the funding to put on these webinars. That Google survey will either pop up as you close out of Zoom today. Zoom will just ask you if you'd like to please take a short survey. If you go to follow that link, that will let you take our survey. It's pretty brief, but you'll also get the link for the Google survey in the follow-up email as well, along with the slides. Next month, on the 11th, again, we're going to be talking about stay sharp, proven ways to lower your risk for dementia. And so, Holly, I'm going to turn it back over to you. What did you find?
All right. Several people asked for copies of the slides, which we've gone over that. And I did see some other people saying about dancing and listening to music. That's good. And let's see, somebody was talking about having a loved one that has hallucinations. The good thing with hallucinations, if they are not scaring the person, go with them. You've got to use those therapeutic stories sometimes. And yes, that is a lie, but we're going to call it a therapeutic story. But with a hallucination or a delusion, if they are not afraid, just go with them. If it is something that they are afraid, then there are actually medications for hallucinations. They are temporary. Anything that happens with somebody with dementia, it is going to be temporary because it's a progressive disease. So I always call them, I don't call them stages, I call them phases. They are phases. If they are having hallucinations right now, it will stop. I know when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel like it's going to stop, but there are medications for hallucinations. So I talk to the doctor. A way that you might, here's just an example. Somebody's hallucinating that I took all their money. Well, then I'm going to call the bank and get my name off of that account. I can't believe it. Let's see what happened. And I called the bank. No, I didn't. I called my cell phone. I called somebody else, or I called nobody. And then I'm distracting them away with food, music, animals, or children. Those are the 4 distractions: food, music, animals, and children. Same distractions for us: food, music, animals, and children. They work for us just like they work for somebody with dementia. So, but yes, there are medications for hallucinations. And then somebody asked if they'd be able to watch this soon. Marty does send the link to it whenever he sends the follow-up. So yes, and you can do that. And then it
There's a
goes up on your
there's
phone.
actually a,
Mhm.
there's actually a second follow up that will go out with
Okay.
a link. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel um, from the bottom of the follow up email that comes out to you, and that will notify you every time a new one of our videos is uploaded. But we'll also send a second follow up email with the link to this recording for this one.
And then somebody had asked about that diet. It's called the Mind Diet, the 10 healthy foods. So you can, if you want to Google Mind Diet, you can find it on there, and then it's on that slide. But yeah, you can just, it's MIND, Mind. Breathing, lots of stuff on breathing. That's good. Somebody said they write poetry, doing movies, watching comedies, gardening. And yes, you're right. People were saying, but around every corner, there's another wall. That's right. And we're going to go through every one of those. We go through it. But here's what we have to do in dementia care. We cannot focus on what's lost. We focus on what remains. We acknowledge what's lost, but we focus on what remains. Acknowledge the loss, focus on what remains. Lots of good stuff. I saw people putting in movie nights, popcorn, doing arts and crafts with grandkids. That's fun. Um, Lots of great comments. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. And I don't think I saw, did you see anything else, Marty?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. Well,
All right.
Holly, as always, thank you very much. Just an outstanding job.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
very,
you. Thank
thank
you.
you very, very much.
Thanks,
And
everybody. See y'all next time, too.
yeah, thank you all for joining us. Look out for the follow-up email tomorrow, and have have a great day. And be careful if it's raining outside. If you're going anywhere, just be careful with those wet roads.
Yep.
And thank God we don't have ice.
That's right.
Take
Bye,
take
everybody.
care. Bye bye.